What's up, peeps? We're shaking. We out here. We got the pen. It's about to go down. YouTube lesson number 2. We're talking about embracing vulnerability, which was inspired. This episode was inspired by a client session I had this morning in my coaching practice, Leaders of Legends. Peeps, you can check that out. There'll be links or whatever. But this is a really, really important topic to me, especially this morning, just because what I witnessed this client embrace within himself and the vulnerability that I saw him step into allowed for an incredible emotional transformation that I know resulted in more presence in the moment, which allows this person to feel that much more emotionally in a positive direction after the supposed feelings of after the supposed negative feelings that were the initial. So I'm gonna get into a lot of cool stuff today, but more or less just want to share the purpose of today's YouTube lesson, and I wrote it down, so that's why I'm looking over here. The purpose of today's YouTube lesson is to get a bit more clarity on the topic of vulnerability and see how exactly your ability to do so impacts and influences yourself and those around you. Through this lesson, my goal is to get you to think about feeling. My goal is to get you to stop and think about how I feel, right? To not look away from uncomfortable emotions, to not avoid, hide, to not look away from uncomfortable emotions, right? Rather embrace them fully. Understanding that behind the waterfall is a treasure trove of emotional gold that will help you experience the moments of joy and happiness on a whole new level. Remember, you can't experience peak joy and happiness without experiencing peak sadness, anger, frustration, irritation, whatever. The bad emotions and the good emotions both create the sauce, okay? Both create the balance, both create the flow, both create me. You already know. You know what I'm saying? It's both. Not experiencing both all the time, simultaneously, just experiencing them naturally, one step at a time, one emotion at a time, one thought at a time, one feeling at a time. We're just getting present here today, okay? So we're going to do it. So first and foremost, what is vulnerability in our culture? Defined as the quality or state of being exposed to the possibility of being attacked or harmed, either physically or emotionally. The quality or state, so we're going to say the state because it's easier. The state of being exposed, being naked, being seen, and then thus the possibility of being attacked or harmed, judged, made fun of, looked at differently, picked on, attacked, right? Physically or emotionally. In this situation, I feel like mostly in our culture, it's not physical attacks for you being weak, or you being vulnerable, right? Because a lot of times we see vulnerability as a weakness, and at times we are in a quote weakened state. We are in a state where we are allowing someone to see us fully and transparently, which they could, if they wanted to, take advantage of us. And that's the idea of being vulnerable, is that I'm in a place where you could take advantage of me, and I'm still giving myself permission to trust that it's the right thing to do. It's okay to do. It's best for me. It's best for you. Okay. So I just want to share this one statement that I have, and then I'm going to get into some drawing here. But this is powerful. Okay. And this is part of what the client inspired this morning. There are very few things that can make another human stop what they are doing and consider something else. One of them is by feeling emotions and expressing them naturally. This leads to a plethora of new conversations, conflicts, and conflicts, and I don't know what that last thing is supposed to be, that leave people more connected. So, I mean, I know so many people have like been walking on the street before, and you just see something happening that's like emotionally triggering, and you're like, whoa, that's like intense. Stops you, snaps you out of your life, and you're like, whoa, is this okay here? Is everyone okay? It's all right. Or you see a car accident, people are crying, or you see something on TV and it triggers you to make, oh my gosh, like that is power, right? Emotional energy is arguably the most powerful energy that human beings possess, and for sure the most influential. The issue is that most people aren't able to connect with themselves in a way to share that and channel it in a very succinct way that communicates how they feel. Thus, other people are a lot of times confused or bombarded by emotional energy. Like, what is going on here? What just happened? I don't know how to respond to this. I don't know how to, quote, process it. I don't feel so comfortable or safe to be vulnerable in your vulnerability, right? There's so many different things that happen. So when we're talking about vulnerability and how to embrace it, this is from the last video that I did. We're going to do this. We're talking about vulnerability here and how to embrace it. The first thing that we're talking about is just this understanding, that it's just not easy. It's not easy. It's not easy. And we're not trained to do it. We're not trained to be vulnerable, right? Why? Why would we not want to be vulnerable? Any ideas? I'll tell you why, right? Because our ancestors, when they showed weakness or vulnerability, that could mean being cast out. It could mean being picked on, preyed on. You've seen animals in the wild. The one with the gimp, how does that go? Right? This is how nature works to a degree. Okay. So it's so important to understand that in our DNA, it's just not normal. It's not normal to just share, to be seen fully, to feel free being naked. Right? That's just not normal, right? Why is it important though? Why is this now more important than ever? It's important because of what it feels like to not be. What it feels like to not be vulnerable, to not express freely, to not feel safe to. It feels constricting. It feels stifling. It leads to an excess pride. Oh, no, I'm all good. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. How many people know people like that? I'm good. Maybe you. I'm good. No, I'm good. I'm good. You can tell they're like, oh, right? It leads to this like choking, being choked up of like emotional constipation, right? And how does that feel, right? These things leave people feeling really nervous when it comes to emotional energy. Yeah. Nervous. Right? All of this to just say that to not be in a state of vulnerability or feel safe or free is just so normal. It's super normal in our culture, and there's nothing to be ashamed of, right? This is the biggest thing. Nothing to be ashamed of. Nothing to be ashamed of. If people judge you for being yourself, for having emotions, they ain't your friends. At least not in that moment. Doesn't mean they're not capable of being friends. Doesn't mean they haven't helped you in the past. Doesn't mean they don't love you. It just means in that moment, your vulnerability, your emotional charge is so confronting to theirs, they don't know how to process it because they also feel too in a similar way. And that makes them feel very awkward. And so they say weird things and do weird things to draw the attention off of themselves, right? They want to draw the attention away. Right? And that's what I said, look away. This is what my client said. He said, when I see something super triggering, sometimes I look away. I'm like, okay, well, look at me right now. Why? Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's just have a conversation. Let's just start here. Start where your energy is at, where the words in your throat are at. Start where the words are at. And we go from there. Again, understanding that behind this waterfall, this very tall and forceful energy, it's loud, it's all these different things, is just a treasure trove of emotional nuggets. And what I shared with my client this morning, and I know many of you can relate, is that this wall of, and I'm going to call it, and this is very important, peeps, emotional confusion. Emotional confusion is what stops vulnerability. Why? Because a lot of people have experienced so many different moments of emotional tension that they never processed, right? And many people call this trauma of many kinds, that they forget what they're actually feeling, or they can't tell what they're feeling. It's sort of like never, I guess this is a weird way to look at it, but never brushing your teeth. You have so many weird tastes in your mouth, you don't even know what you're tasting, you just know it's bad. You're like, I gotta brush my teeth. So two, I need to embrace some vulnerability to get past this emotional waterfall into these smaller emotional bits and pieces that I can put together and one by one face, one by one, handle the conflict of, one by one, start to get familiar with, one by one, start to breathe into, start to feel into, start to relax into. Oh my gosh. So I'm not really an angry person. I'm not just an anger here. There's actually like something I'm really sad about. There's this thing that I never really gave myself the space to actually sit with. And this is how it actually makes me feel. When we embrace that type of vulnerability, what we're really embracing is we're embracing our power. Why? Nothing is more powerful than the emotional energy. Why? How many times we said it? When you watch something sad or you see the characters in the movie crying, what do? Cry. Why? It's influential. Emotional energy allows for you to bypass your ego and move right into the source, right into love. Right into love. And when you're in your heart, it's very easy to feel what others are feeling. Why? Because you're present. Feeling and presence, hand in hand. You will never really have a full grip of how you feel if you aren't present enough to really feel the full capacity, duration, length, width, density of your feelings. And part of this channel and part of what I want to share with you, and part of my message to you today, is that you need to be aware that that is huge. Your depth of feeling is enormous. Your depth of feeling is enormous. Your awareness, right here, check this out. Your awareness and your willingness to feel it, now those might be different. You might have purposely forgotten, right? Because it's painful. And you might purposefully hide because you're scared. And I want to say this. That's normal. It's normal. It's okay. And I would never judge someone for that because I know myself how painful it can be still to embrace the conflict of how I feel and thus end up needing to have these conversations and being moments where people can see me on a much more real and deep level, including this stuff right here. Good Lord. I mean, I'm making this up as I go. I could look like a fool right now. And that makes me feel insecure for sure. Because I think that I'm a really brilliant person and I have a lot of really cool stuff to share and I want to teach, but I want to make sure that I want it to make sense. So I'm putting myself out here right now to feel and be embarrassed. But I also know that in me just saying what I just said, there's a deeper power and resonance. People are like, well, okay, I can respect that. And I know that because I respect that in me. I respect me. Why do I respect me? Because it takes courage to be vulnerable. It takes courage to be vulnerable. Courage. Courage comes from here. Courage comes from right here. Okay? It takes courage to be vulnerable. They play together. They're friends. Right? So what I want you to do here is I want you to ask yourself this question. What is something in my life that makes me feel really vulnerable or something I shy away from emotionally? And why? You can journal this one out. Remember, you always should have a journal here. Pause it. What is something in my life that makes me feel really vulnerable or something I shy away from emotionally and why? So for example, this could be anything. I mean, it could be, what I just said is a vulnerability. It could be, I have this really great talent and I'm really nervous to share it because of X, Y, Z. I have this relationship and I just don't know if it's the one. And I'm nervous to have a conversation about if it is the one with this person because I don't want them to react a certain way. It could be, well, I have this incredible company and I have these incredible people that work for me, but I feel like sometimes I'm taken advantage of, or I overgive, or I don't know how exactly to express this, but it's making me feel emotionally to a point where I don't know if I don't want to open that bag. I'd rather just stick with where I'm at. Or maybe it's in this person's case, I have this person that I love so much and it makes me really nervous to think about them not being here. And that makes me feel a ton of other emotions that also come back to the fold, right? And that's back to this, right? This emotional waterfall right, has all these little bits and pieces of emotional experiences in them that you assume is just the waterfall, but it's really a bunch of little things that look like a big thing. So what do? We get out that, oh, this is so fun. Ready? Check this out. These questions are like the microscope zooming in a little more and a little more into the petri dish of the emotional fragments of your psyche and heart that stop you from embracing a state of vulnerability, which is just a state of freedom. I don't care how I look. This is how I feel. And in this moment, this is me. This doesn't mean that this person who's vulnerable isn't ever wrong. It doesn't mean that they're always right. It just means that in that moment, this is what they're expressing. And now, healthy conflict from two different people can happen, or healthy conflict within the self can happen, right? Starting with this question. What is something in my life that makes me feel really vulnerable, something I shy away from emotionally, and why? Next question. What is the deeper emotional energy I am harboring within that experience, relationship, person, thing, whatever it is? What's the deeper energy? Take a moment, write it out, get clarity, right? This is you being vulnerable with yourself. You can be vulnerable with yourself here about what's making you upset, what's making you super happy, what's making you super joyful, what's making you super angry. You will have a lot more confidence to be vulnerable with somebody else about it, right? That's where this word comes in, courage. I feel like even though this is like really hard for me to do, I feel like I can. Okay. Right? So I just want you to take some time with that. This is an important question. Both of these questions are important. And again, you can run this exercise again and again and again and again and again and again and again until behind that emotion, until that waterfall is just a little stream, a little brook, right? And aka the process has become easier for you to navigate, right? You become the person canoeing or kayaking down that little stream versus the person that needs to, trudge through this trudge is the word, trudge through this waterfall. That's really powerful and scary, violent potentially, right? I keep doing that. Oops. Right. So what is the deeper emotional energy I'm harboring within that experience, vulnerability itself, whatever. Right. The next question that I want you to ask is, do I feel ready to confront it? So I want you to close your eyes when you ask this question. This emotional energy I'm looking away from, I now am aware of, and this thing that created or started, or where I feel like this emotional energy is like tucked into or infused. Am I ready to face that? Am I ready to experience it? Am I ready to confront it? And if the answer is yes, I just want you to close your eyes right here. And if it's okay if it's no, by the way, you might not be. But if the answer is yes, I just want you to close your eyes here, and I want you to invite it, literally, energy, right? Anger, sadness, happiness, joy, whatever it is, name it. I want you to come up, and I want to feel you, and I want to communicate with you and understand what's happening so that I can experience more freedom and happiness and joy in my life and live a lot more peacefully. Breathe, allow the energy to come up, which now this little lesson has become also a workshop on how to do it, which is fine too. I didn't plan that. So I just want you to invite it up and then feel it. Invite it, feel it. Take time, take like 2, 3, 4 minutes here. Just sit and just feel, and let it slowly melt away, move away, fuse with you, whatever it wants to do, whatever you want to do with it. And feel free to have a conversation with it out loud. Again, moving the energy through your body, moving it out, allowing your space to become a lot more open for you, embracing the vulnerability of having a conversation with yourself because you are so emotionally constipated. There's no other way to do this now. You must start to emotionally poop out how you feel. And you can do that via the words that you speak. And it's powerful and life-changing. And again, you're just consistently following up this word vulnerability. So I want you to take a moment to do so, and you can pause it here. Right? Do I feel ready to confront it? Okay. Right now that I've confronted it, how do I feel? Now that I confronted this, how do I feel? I just want you to list how you feel. Could be, I feel more free. I feel like that was a lot. I feel like tired. I feel conflicted. I feel like I just opened up a can of worms. I feel all kinds of things. I just want you to give yourself permission here to take the next 30 minutes for you, right? Process. Right? I find it so interesting that we will process and ruminate over things all the time that happen in our life. But when it comes to the emotional things, we expect ourselves to heal in like 5 seconds. Like, okay, time's up. Like, you should feel better now. Feel better now. Feel better now. Feel better now. I want to do the opposite. I want you to give yourself space. Space to feel. Why? Because if you can give yourself space to feel, you're going to feel a lot cooler about being vulnerable, because you're going to continuously see that when you embrace the presence and the tension of vulnerability, you resolve the conflict and experience the peace, you are left with the power. You're left with the sauce. You're left with this unbreakable, unshakable, and undeniable spirit that just makes you feel really connected. And it's in this moment of connection that influence is possible. Why? And you've heard it. How many times have you heard someone give a powerful speech that basically brings you to tears? And you're like, I'm so motivated. I'm so inspired. I'm so amped. I'm going to change my life. I'm going to make some changes. I'm going to go do something new. I'm going to put myself out there. I'm going to make a new commitment. It enforces this energy of expansion and freedom, AKA what you experience emotionally, presence, peace, power, follows. What do other people feel? The same thing. When you let yourself get to this place, you actually influence everyone around you in the most profound way you possibly can. When you invite yourself to be vulnerable, you share vulnerability. When you share vulnerability, you spread love, honesty, peace, presence, power. So to put it simply, when you embrace vulnerability, you influence everyone that you come across to be honest and real. And a lot of times when people are real, they have what? Emotional breakthroughs. And then what happens? They have a rock bottom moment. And then they make a pledge. And with the grace of God, they stick to it. And change the world by changing themselves. And that's why it's important to embrace vulnerability. And to bring it all the way back, this client that I had this morning, we were talking about embracing vulnerability and the emotional tension that he was experiencing. We also ran the scenarios of, okay, so like, let's say you embrace this vulnerability, the next time XYZ thing happens, and we wrote some questions. So the next time XYZ things happens, and you feel like you're ready to embrace the vulnerability and just experience the emotion freely. And this could be like, you're out and about doing something, you get triggered and you just start crying, or you just start feeling really deeply, or you feel sad, or you feel whatever, you feel angry. What you're doing is you're actually allowing everyone around you, especially those close to you who you might have conflict with or who you want to influence, to see you as you are. And this creates this reflector where we're all seeing each other. And now we're all experiencing emotional energy. Now, what do we do? Now, what do we do? Now, what do we do? We bypass the ego, like I said, and we get into the heart. And when we're in the heart, you got honesty. And it's this place that those, you've had them before. Heart to hearts happen in vulnerability. Right? And it's just, this is, for a very meta topic like this, where it's like, you gotta be more vulnerable, you gotta be more vulnerable. I just want you to see that it's also really practical. Like, it makes sense. I promise you, as it becomes more normal and the emotional energy becomes smaller because you feel more and you stop and feel more, every little moment becomes easier to embrace. And when you embrace, you impact everyone around you in a really positive way, because you allow them to do the work that needs to be done in order for them to work past their emotional issues, which then makes everyone friendlier. Eventually makes everyone cooler, nicer, more creative. And it's this kind of thinking and this kind of feeling that allows for new connections and many other incredible things. But for many of you that watch this channel and who follow me, a lot of guys especially, we're talking about leadership. Vulnerability is something that I think is thrown around a lot right now because it's like, it's hot. It's like, oh yeah, it's good to be honest and this and that. But I think that even on a deeper level, when you can conjure the emotional energy of how you really feel, what you really gain is respect. You gain the respect of all the men around you because they want to also be able to communicate with that type of gentleness, or that type of passion, or that type of purpose, or that type of clarity, or conviction, or vision, or that type of sauce, that the deeper resonance. It comes through the embracing, the sharing, and the channeling of how you feel, right? And that is all stemming from your ability to be, here it is. Here's the major question. Can I commit? I don't know if I'm spelling commit right. I think it's like that. To being vulnerable with myself. Oh yeah. It's from this place that everything else happens. If you can't be honest with yourself, if you can't be vulnerable with yourself, don't expect to be vulnerable with others. If you want to lead yourself, if you want to lead others, don't expect to be able to do so until you lead yourself. So the point of this is to understand that the questions that I asked a few of these back, right here. Oops. Those aren't questions. The questions here, what is something in my life that makes me feel really vulnerable, something that I shy away from? What is the deeper emotional energy with it? And do I feel safe to confront it / am I ready to confront it? The consistent repetition of that type of question, and then the awareness of this right here of, can I commit on a much larger scale, is 100% the place that you are going to expand and go to and move into a place of freedom emotionally that most never experience. And freedom emotionally is just this: the time it takes to move past feeling, quote, bad to feeling good is just decreased. It just takes less and less time, which means it looks like things are always freaking amazing. You have your moments, but you don't feel bad about it. You have your moments, you don't feel guilty. You have your moments and you know they're inspiring because you feel better. And the feedback you get is really good. People are like, man, dude, that was so powerful. Thank you for sharing that. Or I didn't realize you felt that way. That's making me rethink a lot. Or, whoa, dude, that was intense. Like, I didn't know you felt that way. How can I help? Or what can I do? Or let's have a face off. Let's have this conflict that we need to have now. Like, all of these things are possible from you being able to commit to being vulnerable with yourself. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, when we're talking about how to embrace vulnerability, we're talking about how to embrace the emotional energy of the moment. Okay. How to / the process of embracing the emotional energy of the moment. That's it. And in that process, influencing others, leading by expression. I like that. Not by example, by expression. That's interesting. Leading by expression and embracing. This is so big right here. The naturalness of who I am. We're not robots, contrary to society's brainwashing. We're not we're not only thinking creatures based off of what we've been told or what we've learned. We're emotional, we're feeling and thinking creatures. Okay. And I would say that a lot of people are way more feeling than thinking, or the feelings impact the thinking so severely, which is fine. But I think that we're, as a culture, very disconnected from how we feel, or we feel like we can't share how we feel, or it's not okay to feel how we feel. And that's wrong. We're allowed to feel any way we want to feel. There is no one with a gun to our head saying you cannot feel this way. It might be you that doesn't think you're allowed to, but I promise you, no one, if you're in front of me right now, you can feel any way you fucking want. I don't care. You're allowed. I'm not going to tell you no. And if you tell me why you feel that way, I'll probably be able to understand or comprehend, or at least have some type of empathy, or be able to put myself in your shoes. I might not agree with the decisions you make or the actions you take, but I could potentially try. And this is what happens when people are honest and real. It allows people who are reasonable to have multiple perspective shifts, paradigm shifts, and thus we all connect deeper. Thus, when you experience and when you step into vulnerability, we all connect deeper, right? And I think that's really powerful and beautiful. And, I want you to take that from today's lesson, is that if you can stop and feel, if you can think about feeling, if you can be comfortable or learn to be comfortable with vulnerability, then you can influence everyone around you, and you can connect deeper. And when you connect deeper with other people and there's more trust built, naturally they want to do more things for you. You want to help them. The collaborating on a larger vision is a lot easier. There's a lot more natural communication. There's a lot less road bumps and hiccups and backstabbings and betrayals, and all of those things are important when you're trying to have a successful career, building a strong family, creating an incredible work of art. These things are important. So I just wanted to share this lesson today, and I hope those questions are ones that you can continue to come back to, and I'll type them up. They're so blurry here, but I'll type these back up, and you can look at them later, and you can play with this. And if you have questions, leave them in the comments or just message me on Instagram at graham.lickner. There's a bunch of podcast episodes I have that go into some of this stuff, and maybe I'll post one. And I feel really passionate about this topic, and I wanted to share it. And I'm really grateful for my client who gave himself permission to go there today, to a really emotional level, embrace the vulnerability, and thus influence me to see even more of that person's potential, and how that person embracing that vulnerability emotionally in the moment where he wants to look away is actually the key for him recognizing his personal power. That the way he feels is strong enough to influence every other man in the room. The way he feels is powerful enough to influence the woman in his life to see him in a new way, and to comfort him and to nurture him and do the things she wants to do. Powerful enough to influence his colleagues, powerful enough to influence friends, powerful enough to influence random strangers, right? This is the power that many human beings have dormant and have not opened up yet. It's the power of freely expressing emotional energy, channeling it, and using it as a creative tool to connect people. And that is dope. So I really appreciate all of you. I have no idea how long this was, probably longer than the last one, but I'm really grateful. And any questions, comments, thoughts, etc., just comment them below. And I'm really, really grateful and thankful. And I feel like I shared what I wanted to share. I'm feeling like the YouTube lessons are some of the most important work that I've done yet in my life, because I have sat for so long and just contemplated so many things, made so many connections, worked with so many people, and have so much inspiration energetically within me that I want to share. And this is a way in which I can connect people, and most importantly, connect myself to people. And that feels really, really comforting. It feels really good. It feels grounding. It feels like I have a very solid place in this world. And that feels just phenomenal. Like, I can't describe how good it feels. It feels kind of like, it feels like finding that, having about to win a Tetris game and having that last piece slide in. That's how me sharing this feels. And I wanted to share that as someone who I feel like is expressing who I am in this moment, and the vulnerability of being judged and seen as any of the things that people could possibly see me as, which are infinite. And those aren't relevant, because I know people who are listening to me and who actually watch this can gain a lot from it, because I know that teaching, I gained a lot from the teaching it. Thus, the person who sees eye to eye with me, or wants to see different vantage points, or is opposite of me, is also going to receive. And thus there's this beautiful happening. And that is the sauce. So be good, be safe. Much love to all of you. You already know, legends find a way. Presence, peace, and power be with you.